Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Nur Husna Maisara binti Samri, metric number 1192505. First of all, we want to thank our lecturer Dr. Asma for giving us this opportunity to make this video presentation. So in this video, we will talk about macroeconomic impact of COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 is now all over the planet but reaching different speed and intensity depending on where you live. In China, the spread of coronavirus news has caused widespread supply and demand that resonated around this economic world. All the commodities exported in this world get lower price when demand in China goes down, while international producers face a reduction in production as Chinese factories close. COVID-19 pandemic give a big impact on the economy of Malaysia. Economic damage in Malaysia is due to two things. The first is the direct impact of the effect of coronavirus from foreign country, and second occurs locally due to the new movement control. The initial reaction to this virus and the lockdown all over the world make all of the people in confusion, chaos and denial. Based on the IMF forecast, by 2020, the GDP fall of the developed economy will be 6.1% and is expected to decline by 11% in world trade. Various initiatives are being taken to achieve the focus of restoring normal economic condition, but no plan on how and when it will be as usual. COVID-19 gave positive and negative impact on many sectors, such as energy sector, transport, economic industry, sport and healthcare sectors.
Energy sector is the activities which are related energy either supplied or produced. Companies involved in the exploration and growth of oil and gas reserve, drilling and refining combined in the energy sector. There are three types of energy sector companies in Malaysia, which is firstly, energy infrastructure, equipment and services. Besides, oil and gas producers. And then other energy resources such as non-renewable energy. During coronavirus pandemic, this sector is the most affected during novel coronavirus pandemic. This issue is because many governments, including Malaysia, held movement control order, which is MCO, to prevent this disease from spread to many people. This issue makes the government likely stop their economic activities. So, the demand of fuel fall as the companies making loss during this time. Therefore, many contracted workers lost their job due to the companies want to recover their losses.
I will explain about the sector economy and industry because of COVID-19 issue. So one of the top 4 highest economy in Southeast Asia is Malaysia, and always maintain to perform strongly in their economies. So the other point of view, we can see the IMF has updated its forecast from 14 April 2020 on the COVID-19 outbreak that show GDP growth is predicted to decrease to negative 1.7% in 2020 and rise to 9% in 2021. Renew is a post-pandemic global economy recovery. So the sector economy industry, we can see that the impact of industry in the electrical and electronics. So contribution to GDP are in 81.0 billions, 5.8% of the national GDP of in 1.4 trillion. Operation, many MNC has put their future investment on hold. Some of the investment are between 2 billions to 5 billions each, estimated by HM. So this in parallel will affect the growth of Malaysia SME development and supply chain in the E&E industry. So in the employment and financial, so we can see that more than 560,000 jobs in the industry, that local SMEs in the supply chain are affected, and this will lead to a retrenchment of local workers due to lack of business and project. So financial potential impact of RM 3.1 billions to GDP during 14 days shutdown. We can see the potential losses of RM 14.5 billions in export for 14 days shutdown. So this will impact on jobs in this industry. So the unemployment rate is estimated to be at 4% or 629,000 individuals this year, up to from 3.3% in 2019. So Mir also predicted that between 941,000 and 2.4 million jobs would be lost because the skill and unskilled category. So that's all for me, that impact of COVID-19 in the electrical and impact of jobs in the economy of industry.
What is main sector of industry in Malaysia? Okay, for your information, agriculture and commodity-based to solid manufacturing and services and service sector is the main sectors in Malaysia. Okay, what is the main sector of industry in Malaysia? It has a labor force of 15.7 million people out of 32.8 million people population in Malaysia. Okay, next, around 10.9% agriculture employees of Malaysia and serve to 7.5% of GDP. So that's mean industry is contribute more a lot of percent in GDP of Malaysia. So that's for your information too. Malaysia as a top 2 main producer of palm oil, tropical wood, the fifth largest of exporter rubber. So that's mean Malaysia is that's why Malaysia hold the top 2 main producer in producer. Okay, next, Malaysia have a lot of minerals such as oil, gas, copper, and bauxite. That's they make Malaysia as a success develop its economy. Then, second, industry contributes to around 38.3% of GDP and employs 27.2% of the active population. That's mean that is a main sector of industry that will be effect of the pandemic COVID-19. So that's such as semiconductor device, electric goods, and appliances. That's why Malaysia known as the world largest exporters. Okay, third, the service main sector of industry is also referred to. The service sector employs the majority of population, is about 61.8%, then account for 53% of GDP. So there's a lot of percent of GDP, then mainly to healthcare services, transport, distributed trade, and tourism. There's about over 7.7% of GDP and 25.8 million foreign tourists in 2018, with growth of 33.7% in the first 9 months of 2019, according to the Ministry of Tourism. But about the pandemic of 19 will be effect to the main offset.
Today I want to present for my part, which is the impact of the COVID-19 for the sport sector. As we know, sport is one of the main source of income for many individuals or group. It also one of the social turn-off events. So the pandemic surely will affect too many people in this sector. I can highlight 3 things that heavily affect in this sector, which are competition, finance, and mental health. First, for the competition, many sport events in Malaysia had been postponed and delayed because of the pandemic. The postponed automatically happen after the announcement of the Movement Control Order, or the MCO. The sports event that has been affected are Malaysian Open Badminton Championships and the Super League Malaysian for this season. It will continue when the MCO is ended, or the season will end without the winner. Next, the pandemic surely will affect the finance for this sector. Throughout the Malaysian background, we know that funding from the state and federal government is also included as part of the income source of the several sport organizations. But the least that heavily affected is sport organization. This is because the sport organization source of the income are basically based on the media broadcasting right. revenue from ticket sales, branded merchandise, advertising, and sponsorship. So to follow the MCO, they must close the stadium. So the revenue from the ticket sale is not possible because of the suspension of sporting events. However, the sport organizations must continue to work on the other channels, including sales of branded products, sponsorships, and advertisement because they are vital for the survival. That's all from me. I pass the next point to Muhammad Shahmi. Thank you.
Today, I want to share about the effect of COVID-19 in Malaysia, which is in mental health. First of all, as we know that around the world we have the big crisis that is the pandemic of COVID-19. So MSN, or that we call Malaysian Sport National, take initiative to close all sport center that have in Malaysia for 3 months because of the MCO. Okay, so the effect to the athletes, they cannot gain a training from that or in the training center because they should gain the training to increase their performance in the sport that they compete.
Okay, now we move to transport sector. The transport sector is a sector that provides service to move people or goods as well as transportation infrastructure. For example, air freight and logistics, airlines, ferries, road and rail transportation infrastructure. Factors that affect the transport sector: fuel cost, demand for service, labor cost, geopolitical events, government regulation. Aviation transport. Overall effect. Forecast passenger traffic in Malaysia decreased between 36.2% and 38.1% year-on-year in 2020. Passenger demand also fall from 44% to 34%. Need to cancel 13.6 million seats or 12.3% of annual scheduled operation. Many passengers want to refund their ticket because of cancellation. AirAsia effect in quarter 1 2020. Lost 803.3 million ringgit. Revenue for 15%. Passenger carried decreased 22%. Passenger load factor dropped from 88% to 77%. Cost per unit rose 36%. AirAsia also need to apply for bank loans in countries where it operates to raise liquidity. Mesh island effect. 13,000 employees are required to take 3 months unpaid leave or 500 unpaid leave a month for a period of 3 months starting in April 2020. Rail and transport, public transport. During MCO, the people being ordered to stay home and this will decrease the public transport usage. Public transport hour being limited during MCO period, which is 6 AM to 10 AM and 5 PM to 10 PM. Express bus. The people cannot cross the state except for emergency. This will make huge decrease for demand. The seat in the bus also be limited because of social distancing, which make the bus receive less passenger load per bus. This will make the bus have a very less profit for per operation. Okay, thank you. That's all
I
from
will
me.
present about impact on healthcare sector during COVID-19. Firstly, impact on government hospital. Medical cost for COVID-19 patients is free. Check for people to test COVID-19 is free. No income. But government do additional funds, 600 million ringgit to Ministry of Health to support for COVID-19. The government also provide 500 million to buy equipment such as ventilator, personal protective equipment and hire the doctors. So they not really affect at all because the government support the hospital. Secondly, impact on private hospitals. No income if they do test COVID-19 free If they charge for testing COVID-19, the customer will not come to their hospital, need to borrow some equipment such as ventilator and personal protective equipment from government hospital. Some of the private hospital get support from government, but mostly they not get fund or help from government. Many workers or doctors get fired because don't have money. Some workers get half from their revenue. And thirdly, impact on private pharmacy. No corrupt at all after certain time. Community pharmacy not get profit a lot at all. Many supermarket most item at super low price. Only profit from gloves, sanitizer, thermometer, cleaning agent and etc. Don't have much money to pay rent. And lastly, need to fire workers.
For the conclusion is to sum up the COVID-19 pandemic and the associated economic crisis are posing huge challenges, raising many unknowns and imposing ranging trade-off. This crisis is very global. In fact, it very deep impact. Despite the roughness around it, the policy response to these two crises must be quick. In the short or long term, various reactions will be required. Central banks and the Treasury need to ensure that the disrupted economy continues to function while disease outbreak continue. There is an important role for the government in facing real and financial pressures. The shock is not just a demand management problem, although interest rate cuts are a possible response for the central banks, but a multi-phase crisis that will require a monetary, fiscal and health policy response. Okay, there needs to be vastly more investment in public health and development in the richest, but also and especially in the poorest countries. This study indicates the possible costs that can be avoided through global cooperative investment in public health in all countries. We have known the critical policy intervention for decades, yet politicians continue to ignore the scientific evidence on the role of public health, improving the quality of life, and as a driver of economic growth. Thank you.